Good afternoon, student of the course TQ 4021. And this is an assignment that you guys had. Here are the all the parameters that we need to solve this system. And we are talking about a CSTR like shown here that has a jacket. And this tank has an inlet and an outlet. There's no reaction here. There's no an exothermic reaction happening, so meaning that delta H of reaction is 0 for this particular case. Although we have a flow of material getting in and out, then also the jacket has a flow in and a flow out, and here are the parameters. In previous video we developed the differential equation for both systems, the internal part of the vessel and the jacket, but these equations are equal 0. By looking into what's happening here at the way that these differential equations were set, TJ2, which is the exit temperature, is higher than T2. That means that this jacket is being used for heating the content of the vessel. And for example, you can see that by checking TJ1 is 150. That's a very high temperature, meaning that probably is an oil that they have here for getting into the jacket. And it's a small reactor by the mass. We are talking about that the mass inside the tank is about 10 kilograms, and that the mass around the jacket is just 3 kilograms. And you can see that there's a big difference between the heat capacity of the jacket is 2.5 of the fluid that is being used in the jacket versus the CP of whatever is the content here that looks like mostly water, about 4.18 with the same units. Now the flow in is a small flow, about 0.025 kilograms per second, and the temperature from the inlet is 10 degrees C. And right now the flow through the jacket was adjusted to 0.5 kilograms per second for what they call it a COJ bias, whatever. This is the value that was set at a steady state of 50% from the maximum value, which is 1 kilogram per second. So in other words, this valve that is kind of missing here is regulating that flow to about half of the total flow that we can have in the jacket or around the jacket. Now the inlet temperature for the jacket, as I said, is 150. And there's nothing else to say here except that they're asking to calculate the temperature, the exit temperature, this one here, TJ2, and the exit temperature for the tank, which is T2. Now, again, these two equations were developed in previous video. Now we are solving this differential equation when at a steady state, meaning that the differential part is gone, as you can see here. And that's why we don't worry about MT or MJ on these tanks, because we are not working on control, nor we are working on dynamics, only at the steady state, meaning that MT and MJ it doesn't show up anymore in the equation. Now to solve this, we need to set these two equations. I'm gonna use solver for this because it's a little comparison. You can punch all the numbers and then work on the simultaneous solution of these two equations, but I'm going to use solver. So the typical thing that I do is set the parameters, like for example parameters, because at a later time I want to change them to and find different solution or entertain different solution as I adjust the flow here, because that's eventually it's going to be the manipulated variable for my control system. So parameters, values, and also units. Be sure that you get the units right. And the first parameter, I'm going to go through what I have here, is the m dot n1 dot. That's let me put this on cap. That would be m dot 1, and that's about 0.025. Again, the unit kilograms per second. About T1, let me put this like this, T1, that's the inlet temperature, is about 10 degrees C. I had to mention that this balance is possible because I only, the system is maintained at a single phase. It's just everything is liquid inside the tank and everything is liquid inside the jacket side. All right, so that's why you don't see any more stuff here that can or impact the system. It's just because it stayed in a single phase. Now that's T1. What else? CP, let me write it down. That's 4.18. Gonna write the unit later on. Anything else for the tank that I need to worry? I'm gonna put here that, like for example, QRX, meaning that there's a exothermic reaction here. I will have to add that term here, like a hidden term, like QRX. You know, it's gonna be in units of kilowatts. Like you are adding that amount of heat that is coming from a reaction, internal reaction here. But in this particular case, QRX is 0, so I don't have to care about it. But if there's a heat up reaction happening, then you have to add it in this equation, which happen to be the balance, the energy balance for the content inside the vessel, because the second equation, this one here, is for the energy balance for the jacket. All right, so that's 0, no problem. Typically this will be like kilowatts, the unit of kilowatt, and this is kilojoules per kilograms per degree C. And now we have flow on the jacket. Let me start this by just setting the maximum flow, that the MJ dot, that's what I call it, MJ dot max. If I open the valve here fully, that means that the maximum flow would be about 1 kilograms per second. But I have adjusted that valve to 50%. That's COJ. I can call it bias, because that's kind of the value that it will be set, and that's 50%. Now the actual flow, MJ dot, then will be this value times the setting of the valve, which I cannot take it from here. That's E7 divided by 100, and that's obviously the value that you see here. That's kilograms per second. Now keep going, and then the temperature at the inlet of the jacket, that's called TJ1. TJ1 is 150 degrees, very hot, it's an oil. And keep going. Now the heat capacity for the jacket fluid is about 2.5. Definitely it's an oil, kind of low. That's kilojoules, kilograms second. C. There we go. And I'm gonna write MT. It will not matter for this problem, but just because it's there, 10 kilograms, because we are working on the steady state, not on dynamics. But I'm gonna write it MT. That's the mass inside here, and the mass that is within the jacket, that's about 3 kilograms. Again, it's a small reactor, that will do. Now anything else? I think that I went through all the terms. Oh, missing the big one, UA. UA for this tank is about 10, which is, to me, is kind of a big, kind of a humongous value. We'll see. Kilowatt degrees C. Remember, U is the global heat transfer constant, and multiplied by the area, that's what you get the 10 here. And just to make an observation, that UA for this tank here is kind of huge compared with, like, for example, for UA for convectional heat out or something like that, or convective heat is about, that UA for convective heat is about 0.02. It's a small value. Now compared with this, it's about 100 times larger than a regular convective heat transfer. But anyway, I'm just saying that's a big value. We'll see. Now anything else here that I need? No, the only thing that I need is just to set this equation the way they are. And the nice thing is, let's say here I'm gonna set the temperatures, which I don't know what they are. Let's write here temp. And now here I'm gonna set, for example, let's say this is actually T2. And I'm gonna set this as TJ2, and these are kind of values or initial values because I don't know what they are. I can set them both equal to 50 degrees, whatever, you know. I'm not pushing them to be anything at the initial time, but here we go. So we're gonna make these two equations within just so that we are able to solve them with solver. So let me get this out of, I don't know, let's put it here so I can see this better. And so the nice thing is that you write them the way you see it here, and that's kind of nice. So this is going to be equal m1. You look for that m1, and that's this value here, and multiply that by cp1, and that's this one here, times t1, and that's this guy here. So you get that minus m2, and m2 is in this tank is also m1. So the mass that just the flow of mass getting in is the one also getting out. So that case would be m2 would be m1, this one here. So that would be this value back again times the CP value time, here we go, time T2. I don't know what is T2, but I wanna take it from here. That's kind of my initial guess, plus UA, which is this value here, time, careful here, TJ2, that's TJ2, that's this temperature minus this temperature. All right, so the nice thing is I don't have to add $sign to anybody because I will not be dragging this equation to anywhere, and just leave it the way they are, and that hit 4.18. That's okay. Now we do the same with the second equation. So we look for MJ1. MJ1, that would be this flow is not this one, actually it's this one. It's the actual flow that I have set on my system, time the CPJ, which is this one, times TJ1. TJ1 is this one here. All right, so we are looking into this second equation minus, again, this is MJ2, is actually MJ1 as well. So this value here, oops, there we go, times CPJ time, careful here, TJ2, that's this temperature, the exit temperature, minus, we are removing heat from the jacket, UA, which is this value here, times, here we go, TJ2, what is TJ2? That would be this value here, minus TJ, where we are, here, minus T2. All right, close, and enter. So we got those two values. Now, you can see that there's a third equation here, and this would be true if I want to solve this by, by hand, doing kind of a hand substitution. If you add these two equations, this part here will drop out, and the only thing that you have to do is express TJ2 in terms of T2, and then, as I said here, then you substitute that definition here, TJ2, and all of a sudden you have all the equation in terms of T2. So when you solve T2, then you substitute back here and you get the value of TJ2. That's the way to do it by hand. I'm using solver here, so I'm pretty much done here. So these are my vector for solution, and this is my I'm looking at these two equations here. Here are the equations. Let's write equations here. These are equations, and what I'm looking is that my equations are, they hit the zero. I want them to drive them to zero. Instead of having a value here minus 4.18, that should be zero, and so here. So the solver is going to play with these two numbers until they get or hit zero, based on these parameters that I have here. So let's do that, and what we're going to do is go here on data and look for solver. And when I have solver, here we go. Careful here. But because there's two equations, what we really want is the following. We want that this equation hit a value of, and I have zero here, that's good. And but what is the constraint? The constraint also is that this second equation, let me add here. My second constraint is that this equation here at least be also constrained to 0 as well. So that's my second equation. So let me write this clear to you. So my first equation is here. It was set to a value of 0. But my second equation, which is this one here, also I want that that number be hitting the 0. Now, by changing what? And here we go. By changing these two values here. So I want to iterate through those two values until I finally get what I want. Now, a couple things here before we leave. Make unconstrained variable non-negative. I have to take that out because it might not happen in this case, but they can be negative. But not in this case. I doubt it. That I'm kind of I don't have, well, the set of the parameters that I see here. I'm working here. I don't see them. How can they get a negative value? But that's so you unconstrain them. That's all what I'm saying. The system non-linear. I think that this system is extremely linear. There's no, so I can leave it like that, or let's see. Let's start with a simple LX, and anything else. How about options? In options, it's popping in a different screen here. Let me move it to where I want it right here, and the precision is 0.0001. Sounds good to me. Let's say okay, and now we are ready to rock this, and let's see what happens. So it's popping to someplace else. I gotta move this to another place here, and here we go. As you can see, the temperature are huge. I mean, on the water side or the aqueous phase is 137, mean that that's going to be under pressure. If I want to stay on the liquids phase, that means that that vessel is under pressure. And TJ2 dropped to 139, and let's get this here. Actually, I can say that. Let's say okay, and let's go back here to this. So those are the temperatures that I'm getting at the exit, and very good precision. E to minus 13, minus 13, this is 0 basically. So it's 137 T2 and 139 at the jacket side. So you know the temperature basically inside here, the jacket side stay about 139, but the input was about 150. That's why it's so high, because I'm using sort of like an oil, very hot oil. And number two is a huge UA. I think that this is big, very big. So one thing that I could do to make this more reasonable, that UA must drop, I don't know, maybe about 1 or 2. So let's drop that UA as you know, as I'm speaking right now. Let's get that UA and drop it to 2. And let's work out again the number. As you can see, if I change only the UA, it changes to non-zero value. So I had to go back and get to solver and tell solver to solve that little change. Solve, and as you can see right now, I'm getting actually sounds good, 0 here and 139 here, 133, 139. Still high. Gonna drop UA a little bit more. Let's say 1, and let's run that again. Let's see how much it's gonna change. So I'm still under high pressure, 127. Now, as you can see, TJ2 start to increase because there's not much heat being, you know, taken from the hot oil, and that's because your heat transfer is getting smaller as I you know go through it. It was 10, now it dropped it to 1. If I keep it dropping, then you will start to see that the jacket might be not that great. Again, the water getting through is about 10 degrees C. Now the flow is kind of small, so one thing that I could do, like for example, let's say if I increase the flow and instead of being 0.025, I want to keep that value. So what I'm going to do is multiply that value times 0, but then add something else like 0.01. and now you increase the flow through the tank. Obviously, if you increase the flow through the tank, and this temperature will drop because I'm gonna keep the UA at the same value. Let's see what would that do. So we go back again to solver and solve that. Again, there's not changing because I'm only changing parameters here. So let's say solve, and there we go. Interesting. So now you can see that a lot of flow of cold water at 10 degrees C is getting an impact on the temperature. The exit temperature is about 90 degrees, and the temperature of the jacket side is dropped to 123. So that's kind of the beauty about how to use solver in Excel to get this linear system, quickly solve for any parameters that you want to change. Like for example, if I leave that the way it is right now, or I go back to change the UA, I can certainly do more things. Like for example, and this is the final part of this video, and let's say this value 89 and 123, I'm gonna call those kind of the steady state value based on the new change that I did, both in this case on the UA for the vessel, which I'm gonna leave it at 1, but also I'm gonna leave this at 0.1. It makes more sense, the value that I'm seeing right now. So those values 89, I'm gonna call those values as TSS, and for both jacket and tank. So basically I'm gonna copy this, gonna put this T here, paste, gonna paste number. So I'm not pasting anything, copy, gonna paste number, paste. Now how about T temperatures SS, but when COJ, meaning the flow through the jacket, is 0. If I drop this to 0, meaning that I'm gonna close the valve, what's gonna happen? The answer is so simple that you will realize that nothing will happen, because basically if there's no flow through the jacket, like for example this guy here, doesn't exist, so this cancel out, this cancel out. The only thing that will happen is that TJ2 is going to be T2. Since these two are equal, this is 0, meaning that T2 is going to be equal to T1. That's a no-brainer. When TSS COG is set to 0, these temperatures will stay the way they are, particularly in this case T1. I can try to run that, I can run it, and that's going to happen. In fact, let's go here, and that's the nice thing that you can do here. Like CO bias, set that to 0, and now run your system again. Solver, solve, and check what's gonna happen. See, you get 10 and 10. Mean this is 10, which was the input temperature here, and this is 10. Now set TSS. What are the value for the steady state value when COJ equal 100%? So now we open at full blast the flow through the jacket for the condition of the vessel, and we go back and check those values, and basically we only need to change here the bias to 100%, and then now we got the full flow through the jacket at 1 kilograms per second. And so let's see, run again solver with those parameters you have changed, solve, and okay. So here we are. We can get then the maximum temperature for this system is about 98, around 98.3. I can write it, and here on the jacket side is going to be 135. And 135.2, actually 135.2. So here we are. So we can set a set point if we want to do, like for example control. It is clear that for this type of condition that we have set on this vessel or around this vessel, if the flow through the tank is going to be kept at 0.1 kilograms per second, and so the temperature is going to be 10 degrees and so forth, and there's no heat or reaction because we set that to 0, eventually our system will stay at, for example, no flow through the jacket means it's going to stay at whatever temperature is getting into the vessel. That's 10. Now, if we change the flow to 100%, meaning that maximum flow through the jacket, that gonna take the temperature to about 98.3 at here at the axis. So we can set a set point between 10 and 98.3, and the control system will properly adjust the valve as required if you have the proper tuning parameters. It is clear that this system is we should use a PI controller, a proportional integral controller, because this system will auto regulate without any problem, so behave nicely. So you better use a PI type of controller. And just to get this better, or as I always like to do that, I always like to get this more presentable, and that's basically what we have. And again, I use solver for this basically, and establish these initial values, because solver will drive them properly just to set them to zero eventually, the equations. And this is for the first equation, and here is the second equation. For example, one thing that I can modify here just before finishing this is the equation that might have QRX. So if I add QRX here, then it will have to add, like for example, then I will have to add plus in this case will be this value here. It had to be on this unit, kilowatts. So, but in this case it's 0, there's not going to be any impact. But if I start to change this value, like for example, we have an exothermic reaction that is generating, I don't know, 5 kilowatts of energy, then all of a sudden we have to redo this a little bit. So we have to go back to solver and get that done. Data, solver, and solve, and there we go. Save. Okay. As you can see, the temperature kind of increased from a maximum of 98, because I'm amount of maximum flow on the jacket. From 98 increases to 102.7. So you can see that there's an impact on this, depending on whether the reactor is, in this case, exothermic, is generating energy, as there's a reaction happening here, and that energy has to be taken by the jacket. Well, more than enough. This actually solved the assignment that we have before with this parameter. I only updated with new parameters. That looks to me better. They provide a better, a more realistic solution, those that I have seen in the practice. But again, UA is the one that concerned me. It was kind of huge at the value of 10, more reliable around 1. It seems to me that it's more like a vessel can be constructed with that UA around 1. Could be higher, but again, I don't know. Would be more expensive. More than enough. Have a great day, whatever be your final destination. Bye.